The next stage of war in the Middle East is imminent, according to Israel's Prime Minister, as it prepares to attack Gaza by air, land and sea.
The nation of Israel, known for having one of the most formidable military intelligence and air forces globally, has been brutally invaded. On October 7, 2023, Islamist militant group Hamas launched a massive surprise attack on Israel, killing hundreds of people. Israel responded by declaring war and bombarding Gaza with airstrikes. In an unexpected turn of events, something just happened in Israel that shocked the whole world. What exactly is it? In this video, we will dive into certain overlooked nuances that everyone is ignoring. Let's go. How did the Israel-Palestine conflict start? The ongoing Israel-Palestine war continues to inflict devastating consequences. The war has resulted in a staggering death toll of over 1,000 lives and more than 5,000 individuals sustaining injuries. The current war is unlike anything experienced in the last decade. To understand what exactly is happening, it's important to delve into the context surrounding the Israel-Palestine conflict. Israel, the world's only Jewish state, is located east of the Mediterranean Sea, while Palestine is the territory of the Arab population residing in the Israel-controlled land. These two regions have been engaged in a long-standing conflict, with the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip fueling tensions. Over the years, the situation has escalated, leading to violent clashes between the two sides. Around the 17th century BC, following the call of God, three patriarchs of the Jewish people, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, settled in Canaan, a region that roughly corresponds to present-day Israel, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, parts of Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. The region came to be known as the Land of Israel, the Promised Land, or Palestine. In 1000 BC, King Saul established the Israelite monarchy, which was later ruled by King David. King David made Jerusalem the capital of his kingdom, and his son, King Solomon, built the first temple in Jerusalem. After King Solomon's death, the United Monarchy split into the Kingdom of Israel in the north, with Samaria as its capital, and the Kingdom of Judah in the south, with Jerusalem as its capital. The land became home to a majority of Jews, but experienced numerous conquests by various groups, leading to a significant decrease in the Jewish population. Roman conquest and religious significance. One significant conquest was carried out by the Roman Empire, which renamed Judah Palestine in an attempt to sever the Jewish connection to the land of Israel. During this time, Christianity, which originated as a Jewish sect, grew and eventually became a dominant religion. In the 7th century, an Arab conquest began, spreading Islam. The Dome of the Rock was constructed on the ruins of the Second Temple, making Jerusalem a holy city for three monotheistic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Christians in Jerusalem faced intense persecution under the Seljuk Turks, a Central Asian empire with territorial ambitions. In response, Christians in Europe launched several crusades to reclaim the holy city. These events resulted in the loss of many Jewish lives and forced many Jews to embark on pilgrimages, primarily in Western Europe. From the 16th century to World War I, the Holy Land, including much of the Middle East, was ruled by the Ottoman Empire, an Islamic superpower. The region was informally referred to as Palestine. Meanwhile, in Europe, a growing number of Jews were embracing Zionism, a movement aimed at establishing a Jewish national state in their ancient homeland. Consequently, in the early 20th century, tens of thousands of Jews migrated from Europe back to the region. British mandate and rising tensions. During World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapsed, and the British and French empires divided its Middle Eastern territories. The British gained control over the remaining region, known as the British Mandate for Palestine. Under the Balfour Declaration, which took effect in 1923, Britain pledged to establish a Jewish national homeland. Tensions between Jews and Arabs, both claiming the land, intensified during this period and resulted in acts of violence. Some of these animosities led to the recent incident in Israel that shocked the whole world. In the 1930s, as the Jewish population in Palestine increased due to fears of persecution under Nazi Germany. The British imposed restrictions on Jewish immigration. In response, Jewish militias formed to fight against both the Arabs and the British rule. Then, the Holocaust unfolded in Nazi Germany, claiming the lives of nearly 6 million Jews. After the war, a large number of Jews fled from Europe to Palestine in search of a homeland, further escalating tensions with the Arabs. The birth of Israel and the Arab-Israeli wars. Overwhelmed by the situation, Britain began to withdraw from the region. Following World War II, the United Nations proposed a plan to partition Palestine into 2 independent states, a Jewish state and an Arab state. Jerusalem was to become an international zone with a special status. However, the plan, which granted more territory to the Jewish population representing only 1/3 of the total population, was rejected by the Arabs. Volunteer armies were formed throughout Palestine, and less than a year after Britain's withdrawal, Israel declared itself an independent state, marking the beginning of a new, bloodier chapter in the struggle between Jews and Palestinian Arabs. Shortly after Israel's declaration of independence, the 1948 Arab-Israeli War broke out. This war involved 5 recently independent Arab nations, Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, forming the Arab League. Their objective was to establish a unified Arab Palestine. However, a ceasefire agreement was reached a year later, resulting in Israel gaining control over more than 2/3 of historic Palestine, including West Jerusalem. Jordan occupied East Jerusalem and the area known as the West Bank, while Egypt occupied the Gaza Strip. As a consequence, over 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from the land they had inhabited for centuries, an event known as al-Nakba, or the catastrophe. The Israel Palestine conflict continued to escalate, leading to further wars and ongoing tensions. In 1967, the Six-Day War erupted between Israel and neighboring Arab states, including Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. Israel emerged victorious and occupied the West Bank, East Jerusalem, the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, and the Sinai Peninsula. This occupation further complicated the situation and intensified the conflict. Rebellions and peace negotiations. Over the years, numerous efforts have been made to resolve the Israel-Palestine conflict and establish a lasting peace. These include negotiations, peace treaties, and the involvement of international mediators. The Oslo Accords, signed in the 1990s, aimed to create a framework for a 2-state solution, with Israel and Palestine coexisting side by side. However, the implementation of the accords faced significant challenges and did not lead to a final resolution. One of the core issues of contention is the establishment of Israeli settlements in the occupied territories. Israel has constructed settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, which are viewed as illegal under international law and an obstacle to peace by much of the international community. Additionally, the status of Jerusalem remains a highly contentious issue, with both Israel and Palestine claiming it as their capital. The conflict has resulted in a great deal of suffering for both Israelis and Palestinians. There have been numerous outbreaks of violence, including suicide bombings, rocket attacks, and military operations. Civilian casualties, including children, have been a tragic consequence of these hostilities. Efforts to find a solution continue, but the road to peace remains challenging. The international community, including the United Nations, has been actively involved in mediating the conflict and promoting a 2-state solution. However, reaching a full agreement that addresses the complex issues and competing demands of both sides has proven elusive. Who are the Hamas group? When exploring the current shocking happenings in Israel, it is impossible to ignore the influence of Hamas, an Islamist militant organization intricately woven into the fabric of Palestinian politics. Hamas governs the Gaza Strip and is known for its armed resistance against Israel. It receives material and financial support from Iran, and some of its leaders reportedly find refuge in Turkey. Its rival party, Fatah, dominates the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, and governs in the West Bank, and it has renounced violence. Hamas was founded in December 1987 by Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, a Palestinian cleric who had been involved in local branches of the Muslim Brotherhood. Yassin established Hamas as the political arm of the Brotherhood in Gaza during the First Intifada. which was a Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation. At the time, Hamas aimed to counter the influence of Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ, another organization that advocated violent resistance against Israel. In 1988, Hamas published its charter, which called for the destruction of Israel and the establishment of an Islamic society in historic Palestine. In 2017, Hamas presented a new document that accepted the idea of an interim Palestinian state along the pre-1967 borders, the Green Line, but it still refused to recognize Israel. Hamas employed suicide bombings as a tactic starting in April 1993, prior to the signing of the Oslo Accords between Yasser Arafat, PLO leader, and Yitzhak Rabin, Israeli Prime Minister. The Oslo Accords established limited self-government for parts of the West Bank and Gaza under the Palestinian Authority, PA. Hamas condemned the accords and the recognition of Israel by both the PLO and Israel. In 1997, the United States designated Hamas as a foreign terrorist organization. During the early 2000s, Hamas played a significant role in the violent resistance known as the Second Intifada, although other groups such as PIJ and Fatah's Tanzim militia were also responsible for acts of violence against Israelis. What's the significance of the Gaza Strip? The Gaza Strip is one of the most densely populated areas in the world with more than 2 million people. The Strip is about 139 square miles, that's slightly more than twice the size of Washington, D.C. Its border with Israel is about 36 miles, and its border with Egypt is about 8 miles. Despite its small size, the Gaza Strip holds significant historical, political, and geographical importance in the Middle East. This piece of land is steeped in history and is believed to have been inhabited since ancient times. It has been a vital trade route connecting Africa, Asia, and Europe. Over the centuries, various empires and civilizations, including the ancient Egyptians, Philistines, Romans, and Ottomans, have exerted their influence over this region. This rich historical background adds to the cultural and archaeological significance of the Gaza Strip. In modern times, the Gaza Strip has become a focal point of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Following the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, the territory came under the administration of Egypt. However, after the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel gained control over Gaza. In 2005, Israel unilaterally withdrew its settlers and military forces from the region, but it still maintains significant control over its borders, airspace, and territorial waters. The significance of the Gaza Strip lies in its role as a Palestinian territory and its impact on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The majority of its population consists of Palestinian Arabs who face unique political and humanitarian challenges. The Strip has been governed by the Palestinian political party Hamas since 2007 after it won the legislative elections and subsequently clashed with the rival Fatah party. That's not all. One notable aspect of the Gaza Strip has been the ongoing Israeli blockade. Israel, citing security concerns, has imposed strict restrictions on the movement of goods and people in and out of Gaza. This blockade has resulted in significant economic hardship, high unemployment rates, and limited access to basic necessities for the people in the region. It has also sparked international criticism for its impact on the civilian population. Furthermore, the Gaza Strip has been a site of frequent conflict between Israel and Palestinian armed groups. Violent clashes, rocket attacks, and military operations have led to the loss of many lives and caused immense suffering for both Israelis and Palestinians. The densely populated nature of the territory exacerbates the humanitarian consequences of these conflicts. International efforts to address the situation in the Gaza Strip have been ongoing. Various peace initiatives, negotiations, and humanitarian aid programs aim to alleviate the suffering and improve living conditions for the people in the region. However, finding a long-term solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, including the activities of the Hamas group, remains a complex and challenging task. What is the scale of the current war, and what is its effect on Israel? The Hamas terrorist group launched a devastating attack on Israel, causing widespread destruction and loss of life. On October 7, 2023, the attack started in the early morning as Hamas unleashed a barrage of at least 3,000 rockets on Israel, accompanied by incursions into Israeli territory using vehicles. Palestinian militants breached the Gaza-Israel barrier, launching assaults on military bases and targeting civilians in nearby Israeli communities. Tragically, a music festival became the site of a horrific massacre, claiming the lives of at least 260 Israelis. During the attack, Israeli soldiers and civilians, including women and children, were taken hostage and transported to the Gaza Strip. This act of brutality was described by U.S. President Joe Biden and others as the worst single-day massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. According to Israeli authorities, it is believed that up to 150 hostages are being held in Gaza, prompting Israel to lay siege to the enclave in an effort to neutralize Hamas's terrorist capabilities. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Gilad Erdan, stated that while the authorities hoped for the safe return of the hostages, their situation would not hinder Israel from taking the necessary steps to ensure the country's future. In a chilling warning, Hamas threatened to execute civilian hostages and broadcast the killings if Israel targeted individuals in Gaza without prior warning. The group claims to be holding more than 100 hostages, including Israeli army officers. As a result of the ongoing conflict, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, reported that its emergency shelters in Gaza were operating at 90% capacity, providing refuge for over 137,000 people seeking protection from Israeli strikes. UNRWA disclosed that 83 of its schools had been converted into shelters. One UN school housing displaced families was directly hit, although further details regarding the incident were not provided. The closure of all 14 food distribution centers by UNRWA has halted vital food aid, impacting 500,000 people. Human Rights Watch in Israel and Palestine condemned the Israeli defense minister's implementation of a complete siege on Gaza as a form of collective punishment and a war crime. Omar Shakir, the director of Human Rights Watch in Israel and Palestine, accused Israel of utilizing starvation as a weapon of war and highlighted the risks faced by the 2.2 million Palestinians living under Israel's prolonged closure in Gaza. He called for the intervention of the International Criminal Court to address the situation. In a statement on the Human Rights Watch website, Shakir also condemned the Hamas attacks on Israeli communities, stating that the deliberate targeting of civilians, indiscriminate attacks, and taking of hostages amounted to war crimes under international humanitarian law. On October 10, 2023, Israeli Army radio reported at least 900 Israeli fatalities as a result of the Hamas attacks, while Gaza authorities reported a minimum of 687 deaths in the enclave. The conflict has taken a devastating toll on both sides, leaving behind a trail of destruction and immense human suffering. Thanks for watching. Check out the video you see on your screen right now. It's unbelievable.